Hey friends, welcome back to the Burn Stress Lose Weight podcast. Today I'm bringing on one of my clients from the Burn Stress Lose Weight Feel Unstoppable group coaching program. Her name is Ashley Conway, and I am absolutely thrilled to bring you her story. One of my favorite things about bringing client stories to this podcast is not to just share a simple before and after for the weight loss results that clients experience, but really to help you see their journey. I think it's so important that we attach a story to where results come from because every single one of my clients before they've come to work with me have all thought that maybe I'm the special unique unicorn that cannot solve this problem, particularly if you are a smart person that has tried to lose weight but has struggled in the past. It's really easy to believe that it's just you. My intention with these client stories is to help you see what's possible when you simply decide. Now, the truth is, you might have made decisions in the past. I can hear you saying, Priyanka, I have decided. But when you don't have the right approach to your weight loss strategy, if your weight loss approach is not supporting your mood, your metabolism, your muscle, if it's something that you need to keep taking a break from, it's not a strategy that you can really sustain. And that's exactly why I'm hosting my next live training. It's happening on Sunday, May 31st at 11 a.m. Eastern, where I'm sharing the exact approach that my clients are using to lose weight, to feel better, and to get time back. When you solve this problem once and for all, it stops taking up mental real estate. And most importantly, you feel better in your body right now. The training is called Lose 30 Pounds Without Calculating Anything. It's happening on Sunday, May 31st. You can go and grab your seat over at burnstressloseweight.com/training. And right after the training, I'll be opening doors for the next cohort of Burn Stress, Lose Weight, Feel Unstoppable. This is a 6-month group coaching experience that is equal parts coaching, curriculum, and community, where you're not alone in trying to solve this problem anymore. You're going to hear Ashley's story on where she was before we started working together, all of the things that she had tried, why they didn't work, and some of the most amazing results that she has experienced simply by deciding to put herself in the room. So don't wait. Make sure you go and grab your seat for the live training. And if you cannot attend live, while I recommend you come live, we will be sending out a short-lived replay only if you're registered. So don't wait. Go and grab your seat over at burnstressloseweight.com/training. I will see you there live. And without further ado, let's talk to my client, Ashley, who, by the way, we definitely had a little bit of technical issues before we hit record. I have my brilliant, lovely client, Ashley. We just spent the last 30 minutes trying to make this Zoom camera thing work, but here we are. We're both using our phones because sometimes that's just how it goes. And Ashley, I cannot wait for you to share your story. I just love it. And that's what the entire purpose of these client stories are, really to share genuine stories, where you started, what you've been through, the ups and the downs. So before we jump into the whole thing, tell us a little bit about you and where you were when you first discovered the group.
First of all, I just want to say, Priyanka, thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast. I'm so excited to be here and share my experience in all of its rawness. When I first discovered you, I remember I called up a friend and we had gone to PA school together. And I just was so frustrated and fed up. And I just wanted to change. I was at a weight that I didn't feel great at. And I feel like I had tried all the things. And I called her up and I told her, do you think I need bariatric surgery? Is this it? Have I exhausted all my other options? And I just thought of like, okay, what do we do here? That's when I learned about you and your program and your podcast. I guess what struck me the most is how I knew there was a missing piece. There's obviously something missing. And I really thought, like you say, and I'm sure your listeners have heard, I thought I was that unicorn. I thought that it was just something so wrong with me that I just couldn't figure it out and that I'd never be able to figure it out. And I guess what I heard from you and your program and your podcast was that I'm not this magical unicorn. There isn't something wrong with me, that I can solve this. You were just so confident in the skills that you teach and your framework and really solving the problem that I was like, okay, just from the first time meeting you, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm bought into this. Like, if anything is going to solve this problem for me, the answer is here.
I actually remember when we first talked about you joining the group and you had tried lots of things. I think you self-identify as a perfectionist. You are like a planner through and through. You have the spreadsheets, you have the plans. And so when you were sharing with me that you've struggled with this, we were saying this is not a planning problem.
I definitely thought I had a planning issue, or more so what you talk about, which is a motivation and a discipline issue. I couldn't recognize that I've excelled in all these other aspects of my life, so that it wasn't the planning, the studying, the discipline, the motivation problem. It was something else. But I was so convinced that I just wasn't working hard enough. I wasn't buckling down. Oh, there's something there that I was missing, including the plan. Like I just wasn't planning well enough.
When you first joined the group, you actually messaged me saying, I'm pregnant. And does this group make sense? Because of course, the goal in pregnancy is not weight loss, but maybe the goal for you would be not to gain an excess amount of weight. So tell us a little bit about your pregnancy experiences with your first two, and then what was different while you were pregnant. And then we'll talk about what happened after the pregnancy.
Yeah, absolutely. So with my first two pregnancies, I guess my first pregnancy, I was a lot younger. It was a decade ago. And I really didn't focus much on what I was eating. And I kept working out, and I gained probably 30, 35 pounds. And then after I delivered, I was able to get, I would say, about 10 pounds above my pre-pregnancy weight before I eventually got pregnant again. Then when I got pregnant again with my son, I had gained more weight. So I had delivered, I want to say, at 205 pounds. And then it was actually the next year or two where I had gained more weight. So I had gotten up to my highest 220 pounds. Everyone told me, well, you're breastfeeding, you lose all your weight. Well, I didn't. I ate a lot more while I was breastfeeding. And I think a lot of that was just where I was at mentally, and really using food to manage uncomfortable emotions, manage stress, manage overwhelm, manage sleeplessness, and just the uncertainty of the world at the time. I think I've tried all the things: calorie restriction, trying to do a lot of intense exercise, working out, cardio, and just spending a lot of time in the gym, pushing myself that way. They worked temporarily. I was able to lose some weight with most of those, especially when I got very serious about the calorie restriction, but I was miserable.
What was it about those approaches that wasn't working for you sustainably?
Yeah, I think that it just comes down to the root problem. And for me, that was eating to manage uncomfortable emotions, to numb out. And I don't think that at that time I hadn't had coaching. I hadn't really recognized how much I was utilizing food in that way.
So when you joined the program and we started using our approach, which is different than deep calorie cuts and intense exercise, what do you think was the first shift you experienced, like the first early win that you experienced being in the group? And then how did it translate into your experience of pregnancy, and then how you lost weight postpartum?
Initially, one of the biggest things that stood out to me was, like you said, I am good at planning. When I initially made the plan, I felt like I was that A+ student. I was doing everything that you suggested. I watched all the course material. I was listening to all the podcast episodes. And I really took seriously, those magic action decisions that you talk about. But really where I saw the needle move was when I was able to recognize that my thoughts were creating my feelings, and those feelings relating to the actions. And I was really able to own that. That was a really huge tool for me that I just, wasn't part of my toolbox at the time. And so I remember early on, just questioning some of those deep thoughts that were really causing a lot of deep stress for me at the time. And I remember you just asking me, like, is that a fact or is that an opinion? And I was like, oh, it's definitely a fact. Absolutely. This is factual.
Yeah.
And you just pushed me and questioned me on that. And it turns out it wasn't a fact. It was my thought, my opinion. And when I was willing to really recognize that, when I was willing to be wrong, and really willing to recognize that, it was really, really freeing. It really opened up a lot of opportunity for growth for me.
I think that this is probably true for a lot of overachievers, where we have a perspective on something and we think that it's the truth. And it's hard to see it in any other way, but that's what we do. This is why the group and this podcast is called Burn Stress, Lose Weight, because the way that we're thinking about our jobs, marriages, kids, relationships, everything is creating our emotional experience. And when we don't see that, it's so easy to feel out of control. about
Mhm.
the stresses that we have. So when you joined the group and you started to experience this is like mindset coaching around stress, what was the impact it had for you over the course of your pregnancy and then postpartum?
Yes. So pregnancy, like you said, I reached out and I said, is this pointless to be in this
Mm-hmm.
group? And you said, no, absolutely not. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, that was one of the greatest gifts that I gave myself being pregnant. It was the most beautiful pregnancy. It was just an amazing opportunity to grow myself while growing a human. But I think to your point, with being pregnant, I really went into it saying that I'm not going to necessarily focus on the numbers, right?
Yeah, we didn't
I
focus on numbers for you.
right,
We weren't tracking
right,
your weight. Yeah, yeah.
right. And I honestly think that was such a gift in and of itself because I
Mm-hmm.
always had this idea of this number in my head for what I wanted to my goal weight to be. And then also this like threshold of like how high I didn't want to get being pregnant. And you had to challenge me quite a few times if you remember
Yeah.
we're not focusing on the numbers. And I think the reason why that was such a gift is because it really, again, it was that mindset where I wasn't chasing this number. I wasn't chasing perfection. It gave me this freedom and this opportunity to really explore my mindset, question my deeply held beliefs, really grow in that way without having to focus on the scale, you know?
Yeah. And for you,
It
I think, tell me if this is true or not. It felt like one of the things that we did rather than focusing on a weight number, because in pregnancy, you cannot really control that. All you can control is eating high quality foods and honoring your body. But what
Mhm.
we did for you was really personalize your goal to getting back in touch with your body and getting back
Yes.
in touch with your gut. And can we honor your hunger? Can we honor the cravings you're having while making
Yes.
healthy choices that feel good for you? So I'm wondering whether that part played a role for you.
Absolutely. One of the biggest things was when I was early in my pregnancy, I was having a lot of nausea, morning sickness. And I remember being so frustrated with myself because all I wanted was like the simple carbs. And that
Yeah.
wasn't on my plan. And
Yeah.
you were like, Ashley, this is essentially like think of it like a medicine. Like this
Yeah.
is something that you're doing lovingly to get through this period of nausea. And even just that little mindset change, again, it goes from almost like diet culture. You encourage me to turn that part of my brain off and really just use critical thinking skills,
Mm-hmm.
and really
Mm-hmm.
just allow that freedom of there are no good and bad. There's no, right and wrong. It's really feeling empowered to make those decisions for my body in the moment. But what, like you said, while also honoring what my body is saying, as far as
Mm-hmm.
you're sick, let's give you something to help you feel better. You're full, let's be done eating. You're
Right.
satiated, let's not continue. And I think, like you said it perfectly. One of my biggest wins was getting out of my brain and into my body. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's somewhere along my life, I lost the connection between my brain and my heart, my brain and my body.
Yeah.
And I got to a place where I was so intellectual. I wanted to solve everything in my head and I didn't feel comfortable being in my body. I didn't feel comfortable acknowledging those uncomfortable emotions. I just wanted them to go away. And at the time,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I was willing to do almost anything to make them go away. And for me, that was eating. The dopamine hit from eating really, for a brief moment,
It
was
works.
able to band-aid those uncomfortable feelings. During pregnancy, I was really, really had the opportunity to just sit with the uncomfortable emotions, sit with the stress, sit with the
Mm-hmm.
overwhelm, sit with the anxiety, and use the skills and the tools that you've taught to be able to ride out that uncomfortably emotional wave. Right.
Yeah.
It actually, reminds me of when I delivered, because we had focused so much on being willing to feel uncomfortable feelings emotionally, mentally. Leading up to my delivery, I was like, I'm not doing cold plunges right now, but I'm just gonna hold some ice cubes in my hands and let them melt, and
Mm-hmm.
just try to prepare for delivery and just sit with like the physical discomfort, because there was a part of me that was so fearful to go into
Yeah.
labor. Okay.
Yeah.
And I ended up going into labor on a Sunday early morning. The contractions started, woke me up from my sleep, and they were somewhat consistent and not too bad. I just, I was breathing through them. It was great. And then my water broke, and I was like, okay, this is serious business. We need to get to the hospital. now. And my husband and I left and we were driving and I just kept breathing through my contractions. And we got to the hospital and it seemed like such a painfully long process to get registered and to get to triage. By the time we got into a room, I was like, I feel so much pressure. I think I need to push. And they're like, oh yeah, okay, come sit down. I'm like, I don't know if I can lay down because I feel like I'm going to sit on my baby. And I lay in the bed and she's like, oh, yep, you're ready. The OB on call came in and she's like, okay, we're having this baby right now. No epidural.
Like, where's the epidural? Where's the epidural?
There was no time for any of that. And several pushes and he was out and it was the most beautiful experience. And my husband, it's so funny because he said afterwards, he's like, you're a rock star. I don't know how you did that, but I think it's because of Priyanka and your coaching. And
I think it's because of you, but
you know what I mean? It's because you have created this opportunity to recognize that like the human experience is fraught with uncomfortable emotions physically and mentally. And I feel like when I was able to just accept that and know that like, it's okay, this is normal, it just changed so much for me. So I feel like that was just a beautiful example of like, yeah, this is going to be uncomfortable and it's going to be okay.
A lot of clients that come to work with me, they feel an emotion, whether it's stress or shame or embarrassment or some feelings about their results or the fails of the past. And they tell themselves that this feeling is too much for me. And one of the first things that we work on together is there's no feeling ever that's too much for you. It might be uncomfortable and it might be really painful, but we can go through it together. And I think that that's part of the difference between being in the group versus even just listening to this podcast, like having the hands-on coaching and mentorship. I'm curious what you think about that.
The coaching is essential in my mind because I've listened to all the podcasts. I've read all the books. And if it weren't for you, that is all I would continue to do is consume. I'm a great consumer of information, but where the rubber meets the road is in those imperfect moments, in the day-to-day, in the repetitions. And that's really where I've found the most traction is letting go of having a perfect day where I've perfectly planned and consumed my perfect meals and my perfect exercise routine and even my perfect journaling. It's actually in the moments that I mess up and I eat past satiety or I didn't do what I said I was going to do that I have really found the growth because instead of believing that I just need a new plan or this is just not going to work for me. Again, I'm that special unicorn. I can just recognize, have that awareness. Oh, there's me again. This is a stumbling block that I've seen before. I'm going to see it again. It's okay. Nothing's going wrong. Let's readjust. Let's course correct. Let's remember ourselves and our why. Why is this important to me? Why am I doing this? Why am I not giving up this time?
I love that. How do you think that challenging some of your thoughts about yourself and your results and having some of these tools impacted you postpartum? And then like with how much weight you've lost and the trajectory for that?
Postpartum, we set up a plan, a goal. So the lighthouse goal, which is being like my end goal, and then weekly goals. And being postpartum, I definitely recognized that I was going to be breastfeeding, that this wasn't going to be a perfect week by week milestone that was hit. And that's what I definitely
And I had to slow you down. I remember
Yes.
postpartum, you were like, okay, I'm back. And I'm like, and hold on, there's a postpartum period where we need to give your body a chance to recover and treat yourself with the kindness like you have a new baby. Like we need to have those adjustments in place and give yourself some space to let go of the timeline. And I think that is hard for overachievers, this idea of letting go of the timeline. We've been talking about that a lot in the group recently, being unbothered by the timeline and leaning into skills and treating yourself so well. But I mean, you tell me, I just feel like that is the roadmap to guaranteed success.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember being newly postpartum and saying, okay, I had this baby in October. By October, I'm going to be my goal. I'm going to be to my goal weight. And I just, I calculated what I needed to lose every single week to get there. I remember getting to October and just being like, oh, I didn't get there, but it was good. In this case, it was so good for me to fail in this moment because all I cared about at the time was the timeline. It mattered so much to me, even though I tried to not let it. I still cared more about that than learning the skill, than really understanding the implementation for myself. And so it was kind of like a wake up call. Like,
Yeah.
okay, now we don't have this date, right?
Mm-hmm.
The date has come and gone. So now what are we going to do? And that's really where I was able to just give myself the time to focus on the skills, to implement the skills and the repetition, because I didn't go into each day saying like, oh, I have to be perfect today because I need 7 perfect days to lose this much weight in a week. And what that's opened up for me is, first of all, a pattern of imperfect, gains and losses, but also the ability to get more repetitions in and be able to build trust within myself. So like, oh yeah, I know how to solve this already because we just did this yesterday. We just did this last week. We just did this last month. We just learned this new skill. And so although it wasn't a perfect week to week, over the weeks and months, it has been a steady decline. And it's so interesting to me now. I was actually just looking, I have a little like lighthouse school principle on my mirror. And I have this like rough idea of where I want to be in this rough time frame, and I have no stress or urgency to get there. Every time.
That is so wild for you.
I know.
Like, from where we started, that is number one. I know that, first of all, I love a good timeline and I love a good roadmap. You and I both know, like, I love a good strategy, but not at the cost of it creating a punishing experience of weight loss.
Right.
And I think a lot of us do that. And I think what my goal for all of us in this group is, how can we make weight loss feel like the greatest act of self-care? How can it feel like a lifestyle upgrade? How can we treat ourselves so well? It just becomes so much more fun. And actually, as you might have noticed over the last multiple months, it starts to create massive results. Like every week now, you're reporting in the group. We do a weekly, it's almost like a weekly audit. I kind of think of this as like accountability with me, my eyes on your work. You're just like clocking it down week after week after week. And it's been a big change for you.
It has been huge. As of this week, I am down 38 pounds since being pregnant. And that feels like such a huge win to me. I think what's even a greater win than that, honestly, is that I am so close to what I thought was my goal weight. And I no longer care. I no longer even know if that's where I want my goal weight to be, because I'm in this new place where I feel so great. And I'm, looking more at body recomposition, at strength, at my muscle mass, at these other metrics that, all I thought that mattered before was the 3-digit number on the scale, what size clothes I fit into. And now I'm like, okay, I'm okay if the scale goes up because I want to build muscle. I no longer care about that. It's how do I feel in my body now? What are my goals for the future, for my vitality and my overall well-being? And so that is such a great gift in and of itself.
How has being in the group and experiencing both the coaching that you've gotten personally and then also learning from the coaching of other people, how has it affected other parts of your life? Like, we've talked a lot about weight loss and changing your relationship with your body and yourself, but how has it trickled into marriage, kids, work? Like how has it trickled into the other parts of your life?
It really is all encompassing. I thought that coming into this program, it was going to be strictly me just trying to lose the weight and finding that answer. And I didn't realize that in finding the answer to my, my weight loss struggle was going to be the answer to really my experience of my life. It has made me a better wife. It has made me a better mom. It has made me a better provider and business owner. It has made me even a better friend, and honestly, so much better to myself. I think that is something that most people would agree in the program, is that we just don't recognize how much we deserve to love ourselves and how much that piece is often missing. And it has definitely changed my experience of the compassion and grace that I give to myself in day to day.
What do you think you would have been missing if you had tried to do this on your own?
The biggest thing for sure would be the coaching, seeing the things that I just can't see. I think that we are so distracted by the things that we think are the problems. The problems. And I think having a coach, we've been able to have this relationship and this connection where I expect it from you and you feel comfortable enough to say, okay, Ashley, that's not the issue here. Like, okay, I hear you, but also this is really what's going to move the needle. This is what I'm seeing. And that is something that I just can't do on my own. I don't think that even that people can do even with like a friend or a spouse. It's just a different type of relationship. And obviously, when you bring those problems that you see, then it's up to me to be willing to consider them, to be open to exploring that possibility. And I think that that's part of the journey too, is, I've been on this journey with you for a while, and it's so interesting to see that you're only able to meet me as far as I was. Like, you were meeting me where I was at. And we couldn't progress to that next step until I understood the concept. I practiced the concept. I was open to it. And then that opened up the possibility for us to, expand and go to maybe a deeper issue that I wasn't maybe ready to explore initially.
I feel like in the group, everyone comes in at a slightly different point in the journey. Everyone has a slightly different background and history when they're coming in. So my goal with every single client is I meet you where you are, and I will move at your pace. If you want to move fast, I will move fast. And if you want to move slow, we will move slow. And I think at the same time, because everyone is at a slightly different point of the journey, or they have a slightly different skill or skill gap that they need to work on, you get to learn from this amazingly brilliant room of women, learn and get coached on slightly different things. And I think when you show up for yourself in this group, my goal is that you always get met exactly where you are. And especially when you show up, and actually you have shown up, we can follow threads. We can pick up on like the mindset gap you might have had before, or how you had some of these perspectives before and how they held you back, and how we want to make a change for this time. But like, you're not one of many. We get to keep following your thread again and again and again.
Right.
And I just think there's something really beautiful about that in this experience.
Yeah, I agree with that. And to that point, I think it's been such an amazing opportunity to be in this group of women week to week, and be able to hear of their struggles and what they're going through and how you coach them. Because you're right, we are all at a different point, and not even like, okay, this person doesn't have it figured out and this person has it all figured out. It's like, this person seems to have nailed this concept and is working on this concept. Whereas maybe I feel like I have that concept, like I understand that strongly, or I feel like I have a good grasp on that, but then this is the skill I'm working on. So it's fun in the group to be able to have you coach someone on a concept that I'm like, okay, yeah, I feel like I really figured that out for myself. That really clicked for me this time. So I can almost walk with you through like what I am almost anticipating you saying to them. So it's almost like the teaching one, right? Where it's like mentally, I'm like reminding myself like, okay, yeah, these are the steps. This is what I would do. And then vice versa. There's been, instances where we have someone in the group who shares an experience, and, they have really grasped a skill, or they really had this huge win. And I'm here in awe, like, oh my gosh, like, how did you get your brain to that place? Like, okay, yes. Like, and then I'm able to just learn from them. And it's not like you teaching, it's like a friend who I'm like cheering her on, and I'm like, okay, she did it, I can do it. It makes it feel so much more real and possible seeing.
And you're not alone in it. You're not alone in it. I think this also comes back to what you were saying at the start, which is sometimes we feel like we are this unique, like a unicorn that somehow struggles with problems that we can't figure out. But when you're in a group of other smart women, you realize actually we sometimes are all struggling in certain ways. And again, it's not just a commiseration session. It's like we're getting coached on specific stresses and obstacles, but I'm not alone in it. And there's something about that has, at least for me, created a lot of relief, knowing that I'm not alone when I'm struggling with something. And also there's a solution to it. If you are going to talk to someone who felt stuck, they're listening to this podcast, maybe they've been listening for a while and they have considered joining, or they want to join, but they keep waiting for the right time, or they keep thinking maybe next time it's a serious investment. Maybe I should try again on my own. What would you say to that person?
I would tell them to figure it out. When you say investment, like that was for me, was something that I was like, oh, there's like guilt. Okay, but I should be figuring this out on my own and not having to go this route, or it should go towards this or whatnot. And I just feel like making the choice and like essentially just ripping that Band-Aid off and making the investment, I see the benefit I feel like it's come back to me, it's come back even more than what I invested into it because of the way that it's changed me and my family and my relationships and really my life. So I think that, there's a way. I think we just have to find it, find that way for that individual. And I think that it's so worth it. Yeah. And you know what I said too? I did say, I was like, I'm just going to try this one time. I'm going to give it one shot and just see. And so I think that pushing it off, I think that there is this feeling of regret. Like, am I going to regret doing it? And honestly, I regret, I guess not really regret, but I wish I would have not let that be a hurdle to me before, because I am grateful for starting it. And I wouldn't want to miss the opportunity to learn this when I did versus if I had pushed it off.
I think it's true that there's always a reason to wait. There's always a reason, especially for professional women who have so many other responsibilities. You can put your time and money towards something else. And I think my question is always going to be, what's the cost of waiting? What's the cost of not solving this problem? What's the cost of not understanding mindset skills and strategies to feel better? Like, what's the cost of that?
Yeah, honestly, I came to you pregnant and my husband thought I was, quite frankly, crazy that I was investing in a weight loss program after getting a positive pregnancy test. And so I think if anyone could say like, maybe I should wait to a different season, I think that could have been me. But how grateful I am that I did it when I did it, because it gave me growth that I would not have been able to achieve had I started it postpartum, when I was focusing on the number on the scale and whatnot. So actually, I guess to that point, it was the absolute perfect time, even though, theoretically, it doesn't seem like it would be.
What would your husband say about coaching? What does he think of it? Does he think it's like still crazy talk? Like, what does he think about coaching?
No, he loves it. Honestly, some of our deepest conversations, like our greatest connection, has come through our discussions around what we talk about with coaching. And it's so interesting how much it interplays with so much in our life. Like, I just feel so grateful that he has a growth mindset. So although he thought it was crazy at first, really being able to share this experience with him, he sees the value in it. And we've brought that to our kids. So not only has it strengthened our relationship, but our kids as well. It makes us want to just tell everybody.
I think it's one of those things where once you start to see the impact of coaching as a tool to up-level multiple parts of your life, it's really hard to unsee that, because now you've experienced it and now it gets to trickle into these other areas, which I'm so glad that you got to share with us. Any last words? Anything else that you want to share before we wrap up today?
Just thank you so much for having me on the podcast. And just thank you so much for your work in this. I think that the safe space that you create for us and the belief that you have and just your passion, it really has changed my life. And I know that you're changing so many lives. And I'm just so grateful for this opportunity for myself to be able to do the work. I recognize that although you are the vessel, if you will, like the vehicle through which I have learned these skills and learned these things and have been coached, I'm just so grateful that I was willing to put in the work and to make those difficult decisions and feel those uncomfortable emotions and get to the place that I am now. I know that if I can do it, that anyone can. And it's just such a wonderful journey to be on.
Thank you for being here. I think the biggest thing is you just took quitting off the table.
Yeah.
That's, if you think about it, right? Because we've talked about many moments that might have gone off track, imperfect moments, fails, gains. And for you to ultimately lose the amount of weight that you did is because you took quitting off the table. And I think that is what allowed you to do and retrain a lot of the new skills that you've learned, which is a testament to you. So thank you for being here.
That's right.
And
thank you.
Coming on the podcast. And everyone, I hope that you took away something from Ashley's journey. And if you're interested in coming into the group, then reach out. Okay, my friends. See you next week. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Ashley. This conversation really is a lot more than just how Ashley lost 38 pounds. This conversation is how she completely changed her relationship with herself, with the numbers, with food, her relationship with failure and missteps and imperfect moments, because there were many. And the beauty of the work that we are doing inside Burn, Stress, Lose Weight, Feel Unstoppable is having an approach that teaches you skills beyond just having a meal plan, is how you have a strategy that turns into a lifestyle that you actually want to sustain. We've all lost weight before with tracking calories and points and counting food and measuring every single thing that you eat. I know that I've created a lot of success that way in the past, but if it's a strategy or an approach that you keep needing to take a break from, then is it really a strategy that's winning? That's a rhetorical question. My answer is no, and I'm on a mission for professional women to realize that there's an alternative. I really hope that you were bit by the inspiration bug during this conversation with Ashley. Sorry that the sound quality was a little bit less than ideal, but I didn't want to let perfection get in the way of putting this podcast episode out. I really wanted to capture Ashley's genuine answers to my questions, so that's why I didn't want to re-record the entire episode. But I hope that you can hear in her story that she created weight loss results while also creating more ease in her relationship with herself and food. And you deserve to have that. If you know you want this and you're not yet registered for upcoming training, do not wait another day. Book the time Sunday, May 31st, and grab your seat. You can go grab your seat over at burnstressloseweight.com/training. And I want to encourage you to block the time and come live. I have done many trainings and master classes and webinars over the course of the years. And there is one thing that women that block the time and come live get that other women who will wait for the replay don't get. It's that decision-making filter where you prioritize this goal seriously, where you delegate, say no to other things. And I know that that's hard as a professional woman that has lots of responsibilities, but it's actually that decision filter that is the decision filter you're going to need to achieve your goal weight this year. So coming live is not just for us to have fun. It's a decision-making filter that's going to up-level how you achieve your goal this year. And my friends, it feels so good to do that. Don't wait another day, go grab your seat, and I will see you there live. One lesson that I have learned over the years is when women feel better on the inside out, everyone around them gets to benefit. Your career, your family, you all get to claim the up level. So if today's podcast episode gave you a new way to think or maybe challenged an old perspective that you've had, take it with you the rest of this week. And if this podcast episode resonated with you, I would love it so much if you could leave us a rating and review and share this episode with a friend or in your local community. And if you know you want more support and structure in achieving your body goals this year, it might be time for us to work together. Head over to www.burnstressloseweight.com where I have the latest resources and all of the information about how you can work with me. I hope you guys have an amazing week, and I will see you at